Welcome into the Take the North podcast. I am Adam Studzinski, producer for the Take the North podcast. I'm alongside Dan Wiederer, who covers the Bears for the Chicago Tribune. He is at Soldier Field. David Haugh, our other normal host, is a little tied up post-game today. So David and me are going to take care of this one as the Bears beat the Raiders at home 30-12 and broke quite a long home losing streak. They're going to have a victory Monday for the first time in over a year. Obviously, they won on Thursday in the last year a couple times, but that's besides the point for the time being. As Dan, we said on Friday on our pregame podcast that the only outcome the three of us would be shocked by would be a Bears blowout victory, and they came out today and completely dominated a Raiders team that I came away, quite frankly, thinking, how the heck has this team won 3 games, although I know they're without their starting quarterback?
Well, and what it also makes you ask, Studs, is how have the Bears lost 5 games, right?
Yeah.
Because when you look at the mediocrity across the NFL and you look at some of the opponents that the Bears have lost to, most notably the losses to the Broncos and the Vikings, you say, man, like this team should be taking the step to not only compete with these teams, but to beat them on a regular basis. Very, very encouraged to see how complete this victory was today at Soldier Field. You did it in all 3 phases. You did it in dominant fashion. You did it again with a strong start, and you did it again with a finishing touch. And so very similar to the win in Washington, where you just really had control of the game and played it on your terms the entire afternoon. It gives you a lot to believe in. We'll get into our 3-word reviews later in the podcast. Walking out of the box and toward the locker room afterwards, that was different, right? And it was different because, as you said, the Bears hadn't won at home since September 25th of 2022 with that kind of so unsatisfying win over the Houston Texans. And here we are now. A 10-game home losing streak is gone. It's by the wayside. You get a victory with your undrafted rookie making a spot start for Justin Fields. You get a victory with an offensive line that was reshuffled yet again, playing very well up front, paving the way for a 173-yard rushing day and only allowing 1 sack. You get a victory where the defense gets a very unfamiliar 3 takeaways, including 2 in a 90-second span of game action by Jalen Johnson. Just really, really thorough and impressive. And there's a lot for us to break down. I think you'd probably agree with this, that the key here, and it's going to be really, really difficult, will be trying to process this win for what it was and not getting out over our skis as a city, as a media corps, as a group, in trying to draw grand conclusions or comparisons based on anything we saw today. But in the micro and the like where we are today, staring at this victory, wow, it felt good.
Right, yeah, and I can already tell that the Bears victory Monday phone calls on 670 to score in Chicago are probably going to be special tomorrow when it comes to one Tyson Bagent. But we'll address that. We'll address that as it comes, as you're listening on your Odyssey app, or if you're watching this on the 670 to score YouTube page. Again, we're here talking about the Bears 30-12 victory over the Raiders. So I guess, Dan, let's go ahead and dive into the quarterback stuff. I want to know what you thought about Tyson Bagent, who I thought was impressive for somebody who a year ago was playing Division II football at Shepherd University. This is his first NFL start, and the numbers weren't crazy. He went 21 for 29, 162 yards, had his first NFL touchdown pass on a nice little check down to Deontay Foreman, who had 3 touchdowns today. He might be having a game ball coming his way later in this podcast. Yeah. But anyway, I want to know what you thought about Tyson Bagent, who I think played really composed and, most importantly, didn't have a catastrophic mistake, which he had 2 of a week ago.
Right. Well, look, like composure is a strength and game management is a skill. And so I think you're right to point that out. Look, like when you get your first drive after halftime and you go 88 yards in 15 plays and you milk 8 minutes and 16 seconds off the clock.
Great drive.
And then that touchdown gives you a 21-3 lead. Well, now all of a sudden the game is just entirely in your control. And so that's when you look at the numbers and you go, okay, you only threw for 162 yards. Well, you don't need to throw for more than that when you've got a 2-score lead or more for the final 2.5 quarters of a football game. And that comes from playing complementary football. It comes from when the defense gives you a takeaway in plus territory, you go and capitalize on that. Bears did that today. Tremaine Edmonds gets the interception. The Bears immediately convert that into a touchdown. And Tyson did what he had to do. He didn't feel the pressure of trying to do too much. He didn't try to play outside of himself. He made passes that were there. We'll get into this in much more detail on Monday when we get into our QB1 segment, but there was certainly a handful of plays that I starred in my notebook where, you know, I'm looking at it on that opening drive, or actually a drive in the second quarter, where you just have some of these plays where there's a shot to Darnell Mooney for 11, really, really decisive and quick anticipatory throw. There's a play at some point in the game where it was a little check down for 4 yards. I'm going to have to find remind me this tomorrow to find the receiver and the time of the game. But it was a play where pressure came really quickly at Tyson Bagent on first down. And it's a play where too frequently Justin Fields takes a sack and it's like a 5 or 6 yard loss and you're behind the sticks. And Tyson found a 4 yard completion and lived.
I think you're talking about the play where he found Kari Blasingame in the flat.
Yeah, that might be it. Right.
On his left side. Yeah, that was really impressive. Yeah.
And there were a handful of those moments where you say, okay, look, like we talked about this coming into this game. Tyson Bagent is never going to have the comic book athleticism and explosion of Justin Fields as a runner. He's never going to consistently hit some of these YouTube-worthy long balls that Justin is so good at throwing. But what his strengths are understanding the game management part of it, how to play chess, how to keep an opposing defense off balance. The Bears had a really strong focus this week on limiting Max Crosby. Crosby got home one time, but he only got home one time. And so again, like when you're able to do things on your terms, it changes everything. I'm not getting, again, from the outset, we're not going to jump in here and draw over the top conclusions about you got to make the switch now. This big guy's got to come in and lead them. They can make a wild card push with this guy. No, like let's just see this performance for what it was. And what it was an undrafted rookie out of Shepherd playing within himself. And then Adam, probably the coolest part of the day was just having the 11 minutes with Tyson Bagent in his postgame press conference and just feeling that dude's like calm vibe. Like he's just an easy guy to like and root for because he's just so grounded in what his story is and what he has to do to further it.
I absolutely agree. And yeah, we're not going to get ahead of our skis here as far, and you know, we should say Matt Eberflus said pretty declaratively in his post-game presser that Justin Fields is the starting quarterback at this team. And, you know, look, like
as soon as that thumb is healed, right.
Yeah. And I think that you and me, and I think we can speak for David on this one, that's the right decision for right now. You know, we'll see what happens, but Tyson Bagent didn't do anything in this game to win the starting quarterback job. I don't think anyway. So I will just continuing along this conversation though. Like, there's definitely something to be said about how decisive he is and how confident he is. You know, I watching his post game presser, you can feel it. He wasn't surprised that he played well, and I don't think his teammates were surprised at either.
No, and like. I'm telling you, like you hear it throughout the locker room. And again, like everybody is going to try to read subtext into the, you know, like, oh, are you saying this about Justin? No, we're just talking about Tyson Bagent here. And when you hear teammates just talk about how infectious that calm is, how infectious that composure is, it rubs off. I also think this coaching staff did a great job of getting the entire team to understand, look, guys, like we've got an undrafted rookie trying to start a first NFL game, you know, for a charter franchise on a pretty big stage, no matter who the opponent is, we've got to support him well. Well, how do you support a young quarterback? You give him a ground and pound running game that's super reliable. We can have a long discussion about D'Onta Foreman and what that dude has meant to this football team the last 2 weeks. You give him a defense that plays really well. This defense, you know, even you go back to the Commanders game when they really started to get rolling here, they're playing superb football right now. The Raiders walk out of Soldier Field today with 39 rushing yards for the day. They were 1 for 9 on third down. The Bears didn't give up a touchdown until garbage time with 1:10 left when Aiden O'Connell hit Jacoby Myers. This defense has been locked in now, you know, for a span of 3 weeks. And you're like, okay, like there is something here to complimentary football. And so that was cool to see as well. And I don't know how you were processing the D'Onta Foreman eruption. Certainly fantasy football owners who started D'Onta Foreman today benefited from a 3-touchdown game and 120 yards from scrimmage.
Yeah, so it's funny you bring that up. So we'll go ahead and talk about D'Onta Foreman a little bit, and then I do want to talk about the defense. But I did in one of my 5 fantasy leagues have a flex spot that I needed a spot start from somebody, and I said, you know what, Deontay Foreman is right there on my bench. I slotted him in there, and 28 points later, I'm feeling pretty good about that decision. So yeah, he was great today, and I know that last week, I thought that he played well last week, but he was critical of himself and saying that he missed an opportunity to have some bigger gains by, maybe putting his foot in the ground in one place or another and popping a 5-yard gain for 15 or more. So he was very impressive. And it shows that, hey, this is why they brought this guy in here. He's a veteran running back who had a lot of success last year after the Panthers traded Christian McCaffrey. And heck, he had success a couple of years ago in Tennessee as well. So he's a running back that can get it done for you when given the chance and when given the opportunity. And he was breaking tackles. He did have the one drop pass on the first drive of the game.
Yeah, a bad start, a really bad start to the day.
Yeah, and but he's not known to be a receiving running back as per se, but he came back later in the game and had the receiving touchdown. And I do want to say, like, I give him a lot of credit for breaking all the tackles he did, but this Raiders defense, woof, man, they are bad at tackling. And hey, look, broken tackles, you give guys credit for that. It just, I want to also say that there were a lot of missed tackles in this one.
No, and that's part of today's story. And if we had 2 hours, we could spend more time on it. But the Raiders are the definition of mediocre. It's why I changed my prediction on Thursday during the podcast. Right? Because you looked at them, you're like, they don't do anything that well. And if the Bears could, again, limit Max Crosby, if they could limit Davante Adams, they were going to have a chance to win this football game. There's a couple things that really impressed me about Deontay Foreman. Number one, the mindset to be inactive from weeks 2 through 5, to be an afterthought for the coaches on what you could contribute to this team until the attrition came into your position group, and still be preparing all the time as if, okay, when my opportunity comes, I have to, in Deontay Foreman's words, dominate. He's done this. We've talked about his history in Tennessee when Derrick Henry got hurt, his history in Carolina when Christian McCaffrey was traded. The dude has this really cool patience about him, this really cool humility about him to prepare himself all the time, so when the opportunity comes, he's ready for it. Tough runner. Like, one of the coolest compliments to come out of the Bears jubilant locker room here at Soldier Field, which I haven't said in a very long time, was Jalen Johnson just being like, look, like, we know who that dude is. He was almost 1,000-yard rusher a year ago in Carolina, and we know he can dominate NFL football games. And you felt how much he enlivened the offense, which then enlivened the defense. And that's when we start talking about playing complementary football with all of those parts feeding off one another. Deontay Foreman was a huge, huge part of this afternoon.
Yeah, he really was. And it seems like it's been so long. I mean, the Washington game, there was some of it, but it seems like it's been so long since we sat here and talked post game about a Bears team that played complementary football. They got turnovers, they scored touchdowns, they ran the ball, and they controlled the clock for almost the entire game. It was like
35 minutes right at the end.
Right. Yeah, and
34:06.
Yeah, I mean, that's dominant clock control, and it was a really good game plan, I think, by Matt Eberflus and Luke Getsy to say, hey, we don't think that the Raiders can, as we start to get into the defense here, like, we don't think that the Raiders are going to be able to score a ton on us if we play up to our capacity or up to our capabilities on defense. We can control the clock, we can move the ball on this team, and there we are walking out of Soldier Field with a 30-12 win.
Right. And look, like, the thing that we talked about Tyson Bagent, we talked about Deontay Foreman. They connect for the 5-yard touchdown pass to complete that 88-yard touchdown drive. Mm-hmm. And it's a little snag concept to the right. And you've got Cole Kmet running a route, and you've got Darnell Mooney on a corner. And then you've got your check down, the little floating back out of the backfield, and Deontay Foreman there. And Bagent said, look, like, I might have had Mooney on the corner, like, I might have been able to rip that, but all week long, the emphasis from the coaching staff was get rid of the ball, get rid of it quick. He saw Deontay Foreman to the right with space. He knew the kind of day Deontay Foreman had already started to have, and said, why make this more difficult on myself? Let's just rip it over here. This guy's going to make somebody miss or break a tackle and push this ball in the end zone. Sometimes it's the simplest stuff that changes football games, right? And I think that's one thing that Tyson Bagent deserves a lot of credit for, is just that quick and decisive nature of like, look, like this is here for me now. Just fire it over there. Let's get a touchdown. And so kudos to both those guys for combining. Like if we were gonna sit here, even 385 days ago and say the next time the Bears win a football game, it'll be Tyson Bagent throwing a touchdown pass to Deontay Foreman, right? Like, holy cow, what a turn of events this was today.
Oh my, yeah. You in a million years, you never could have predicted that sentence. That's for sure. So let's dive into the defense a little bit here before we give out some game balls. Danny, we hinted at it a couple of times. A dominant performance on defense. You're facing the backup quarterback. Brian Hoyer he's a backup quarterback for a reason. You saw him struggle a little bit, but I felt like, I should say, the secondary especially played really well. You had Jalen Johnson with his first pick six, his first interception since his rookie year. He came out with another one the next drive. He's doing the money sign after the pick six, saying, "Hey, Ryan Poles, here's your turnovers that you wanted." So I know that's something that you and David will probably talk about as we get into the week.
For sure.
But the defense was dominant today. And look, hey, if you're a defense that feels like you're as good as the Bears defense feels like they can be, this is what you do when you have a team that is playing a backup quarterback.
Well, we talked about it that as the secondary started to get a little more whole, it gives you stability, and that position group has been strong, and I think you don't see it necessarily in the stat sheet. It doesn't always pop out on the television screen, but Kyler Gordon's presence is a thing. It's a real thing for this defense, and it provides a level of stability there. I was a little worried on the first drive that Davante Adams was going to get loose. They had Tyreek Stevenson playing against him, and when you've got Davante Adams going against the rookie, I mean, Davante Adams is one of the nastiest route runners I've ever watched. On that first drive today, I was like, my God, like I forgot how much I miss watching this dude run routes, because we didn't get to see him last year because he was in Las Vegas. It was the first time in forever, right? Like that he wasn't running around twice a year against the Bears. And you see some of those breaks and those releases, and you go, this is going to be a nightmare for the Bears to try to handle all day. Well, they did a great job after that opening drive of holding him down. Adams finished the day with 57 yards on 7 catches. I think 4 of those catches came on that opening drive. And so collectively, you got your arms around him and you were able to manage that. You stopped the run. Josh Jacobs, 11 attempts for 35 yards. The Raiders haven't been able to get anything going on the ground this year for whatever reason. And so you're just looking at a defense that there's some cohesion there. Only 1 sack today. It was a really, really powerful hit by Justin Jones when they kind of let him come free right up the middle. Put a lick on Brian Hoyer. So we all know that the pass rush needs to be more productive. We all know it needs to be better, but they're compensating now. And I think Matt Eberflus has kind of found his groove as a play caller in finding out what matches the situation. They've been really good now for a handful of weeks, and I think that momentum carries forward. This doesn't feel hollow. It doesn't feel like, this is just a one-off. It feels like that cohesion is starting to feel very real for what the results can be for this defense.
Oh, yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And I'm with you, too. I was a little nervous at the first couple plays of that first drive when you see Tyreek Stevenson matched up one-on-one against Davante Adams, and you say, oh, I don't know about this one. But hey, they, to their credit, I guess, the Bears weren't afraid to leave him out there and keep leaving him out there against Davante Adams. And, we should mention Adams did drop a touchdown that maybe not the perfectly thrown ball, but he absolutely cooked.
He's caught that 106 times in his life,
And so, this is a little bit of a different game if that happens. I don't know about, I'm just going to go ahead and bring this up. Josh McDaniels kicking the field goal there was something.
Well, taking the field goal after not taking the field goal, like literally 2 plays earlier. And
that was crazy. I'm happy. Obviously, I'm ecstatic the Bears won, but I mean, I was sitting here on my couch laughing. I was like, Josh, what are you doing, man?
Because they went for it on 4th and short, and they picked up the first down, and then a couple plays later, you're 4th and goal, and you're like, no, let's just settle for the 3 here and get within 21-6. And
I mean, just a general strategy thing. If your goal there was to make it a 2-score game, just kick the field goal, because now you just wasted 2 minutes of the clock, and the Bears have been moving the ball on the ground pretty well the entire game. So anyway, I digress. It was a really good game by the defense. Do you have any other thoughts on the defense before we give out some game balls? Because
I was gonna say, I think we got game balls to get to. We got 3-word reviews to get to. We've got a victory to punctuate here. This feels different. So no,
it's great.
I felt like the defense was just, again, they were just in sync most of the day, and that's really encouraging to see.
I think that as we've been talking about that secondary, and that you're starting to see what the vision was for this defense when it's healthy, and we finally are getting to see them healthy, and there's a lot to really like about what they have going. The pass rush needs to be better, but if your secondary is playing that well, then you can certainly get by. So all right, let's give out some game balls here. I'm going to give out 2 because I'm going to give out David. So do you want?
You go first. I'll go second. You go third.
All right, sounds good. So I'll give out. Usually I give out mine first. So I'll go with my official game ball. And we talked about D'Onta Foreman. I got to give it to D'Onta Foreman. He to be inactive for the weeks that he was inactive, and to come out last week and and he, like I said, he said he thought he could have played better, even though I thought he played well. I mean, he was dominant today. You got 3 touchdowns. Helping me out in fantasy football. I still might not win that game, but but yeah, he gets my official game ball. He was awesome today.
And Studs, he might be an answer for a while now for this offense going forward, which is really interesting to see. I'm going to give mine to Jalen Johnson on the other side of the ball. I think that this dude has been motivated to make the most of this 2023 season. He knows what's on the line in a contract year. He knows ball production is part of it. So to get those 2 interceptions back to back within, again, a game span of something like 78 seconds or whatever it was, take the other one to the house. First career touchdown for Jalen Johnson. I asked him in the locker room after the game, I said, how big were your eyes when that ball from Brian Hoyer was in the air? He said, oh, big as hell. And as soon as he caught it, he knew he had a little block from Kyler Gordon on Adams, and he just knew that the lineman and the quarterback weren't a problem. What a feeling as a defensive back to have a clear runway to that north end zone at Soldier Field and a chance to celebrate. And then again, Studs, he gets the second one on the next possession, and Jalen went up and down the sideline behind the Bears bench, slapping 5 with fans, and then took a moment to himself to kind of soak in the moment. And I think he understands that, look, this was a huge moment for me. It was a huge moment for the team. I will still emphatically say on record that the Bears have very little to no incentive to even think about taking any trade calls on Jalen Johnson before the deadline in a week and a half. I think the bottom line is they need to find common ground here and lock him in as a building block for this defense, because I think we are all in agreement of what he means and how much a quality starter at that position means to the defense.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with you. But before we give out David's game ball here, I think that Jalen has for a couple years now been a really good corner, and his value has been in the fact that teams don't like to throw at him. And you see what happens when a team throws at him. He gets 2 picks. So and also his ability to knock passes away is elite, I think. But
yeah, he had a PI today, and he was willfully owned up to that and said, look, I got to be much better on that. That's a long pass play that set them up to potentially score, but comes back and makes up for it in big fashion.
Yeah, and this is a huge pet peeve of mine. Defensive backs on balls like that, just get your head around. You get your head around, they're going to hold the flag. That's if I was the defensive back coach, him and Tyree Stevenson, who both got called for PI on second and long and third and long today, get your head around. Just get your head around. Anyway, final game ball. I think that David would have gone this way. I'm feeling confident that he would have gone this way. Tyson Bagent gets David Haugh's game ball, and he deserves it. He got one from Matt Eberflus after the game. Again, man, it cannot be understated to say that a guy that was playing Division II football, undrafted free agent, comes out here and wins his first NFL start and looked as comfortable as he did. I mean, that's special. It really is. And he deserves to feel pretty damn good about himself tonight.
Yeah, and Studs, he couldn't say after the game how many friends and families came here. I think I heard on the NFL Network early Sunday morning that it was upwards of 6. But there were a lot, and I appreciate Tyson Bagent for kind of being grounded within his own moment and knowing that he's a dude from a small town, I think, with a population of 18,000 in West Virginia. He knows how rare it is to start a football game in the NFL. He knows how rare it is to win a game in the NFL. So I think he was really, really in a cool, balanced mindset of being like, yeah, this is awesome. Today is really fun. But then also giving the directive to the entire team, let's get back on the horse. Let's keep this momentum rolling, and let's do what football teams do, which is, process it, squeeze all the satisfaction and meaning out of it, and get on to the next one as soon as possible.
And we'll wrap it up with some. Do you want to do 3-word reviews, or you want?
Yeah, I've got them open here. I can.
All right.
If you've got a couple that suit you, we can bounce back and forth. But I'm going to start with Michael Gorman because I think he's on point with this. He started with overreaction monsoon week.
Oh my God!
He's right. Yeah. I think we know it's coming, and like I said, like 4 times on this episode, we've got to make sure we keep an electric fence around the conversation as much as we possibly can to keep it from getting out of hand. So that one was a good one. Just to go along with that, you have Jake at the Bears _26. He gives us Tyson MF Bagent. I think that was the thought process of a lot of Bears fans today watching that kid play. Pistol Pete, another quarterback controversy. Again, that ties into overreaction monsoon week, which we're going into right now. Kevin Carney echoes a sentiment we both said for about 75 seconds earlier in the podcast. Raiders are terrible. Agreed, Kevin. Agreed. Matthew gives us way past due. Totally agree. It's been a long time since Bears fans walked out of this building here on the lakefront feeling good about things and having that to go. Bagent of Change, that's from D. Robinson. Nice play on words. That's in honor of David. He likes a nice play on words. We give him Bagent of Change. Any that strike you as I find a couple more here?
I like playing on the theme that you've been hitting on with some of these. There it is. From JB at JO'Neal1, Bears backups rule. A common conversation from the past week that we were having. Well executed game plan. Defense wins games. Man, all right, I gotta look how many replies we have on this one because this has become a thing for us. Only 178. That's
I know they finally won, and it's like a third of what we usually get. At JG Barrett says minimizing mistakes wins. I think that's something that the Bears might want to put up on a whiteboard somewhere at Haugh this week and learn to cut back on the things that create game losing mistakes. Bagent of Fortune is one in here. I don't really know what it means, but I like it. Right, exactly. A couple more here. The Matrix gives us run the rock. Deontay Foreman certainly did that, and it changed everything. The Bears' offensive line has been really, really good at run blocking for 2 seasons now, and when they can get that momentum going, and again, play the game on their terms, when you're not chasing a deficit, you have a chance to do that. Foreman a tank from Chris Teichler. That's a good one. Give me one more. I'll give you one more, and then we'll get out of here.
I like this one from at Sean Likes Things. Kyle Orton Redux. That's actually a name that came up on the post-game show on 670 The Score. A mention of Kyle Orton, just the kind of guy that managed the game and doesn't make mistakes. And I got one more I thought I saw. Oh, here we go. From Stacy, Signs of Life. I like that.
Brett Fox will give me my last one for the night. It's dink dunk defense, and that ties into your Kyle Orton thing right there. That was the formula of Kyle Orton in 2005. And so, look, like you do what you do, right? And so Tyson Bagent didn't try to be Justin Fields today. The Bears didn't try to call a game that was catered to Justin Fields. They did something that suited their rookie quarterback's strengths. And again, you can't underestimate the collective team effort today in rallying around that dude and making sure that they did everything they could to ensure success. And that's what this team is supposed to be. It's not supposed to be a team that gets out of the gates at 1-5 and shoots itself in the feet every single way possible. Hopefully, again, this season was never going to wind up in the playoffs, but this season needs to be about meaningful progress in a lot of areas. I think the Bears showed some of it today, and hopefully it continues going forward. Tough road trip next week and the week that follows. Road trips to play the Chargers and the Saints on tap. Let's see what the Bears can do with those.
Yeah, right. And I don't think that since you brought it up, I don't think either of us would have predicted that when the Bears played the Chargers, the two teams would have 4 wins combined. The Chargers did not win today, and they're doing what the Chargers do, which is be inexplicably bad when they should be good. So I know we'll get to that as the week goes on. And I love that the 05 Bears come up because that team you look up that team, and I'm telling you, that team played video game level defense for 8 weeks in the middle of the season.
No doubt.
And it doesn't get talked about enough because they lost in the divisional round of the playoffs to the Panthers, and Steve Smith still gives me nightmares.
Fox.
Yeah, Yeah, but it's just that team was an anomaly, and you know, I mean, Brian Urlacher was Defensive Player of the Year for a reason, but you know, we don't.
We should mark that down for. I guess we can't do it Panthers weeks because it's a short week, but like that discussion needs to be had at some point, because there is some stuff folded within that season that to your point, like, because it ended the way it did, that season isn't talked about as much as it probably should be. It was also a springboard to what they did the following year, which obviously is the most memorable season of the last 35 years for the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, and you know, it's a good way to sum up the Bears since 1985. Is the best moment the franchise has had in my lifetime was a kick return in a game they lost. So anyway, we'll go ahead. We'll wrap it up there. The Bears win against the Raiders 30-12. We'll be back on Tuesday. David will be back then. For Dan Wiederer and the Chicago Bears writer for the Chicago Tribune, I'm Adam Studzinski, producer of the Take the North podcast. You can catch us on the Odyssey app. You can catch us on the 670 The Score YouTube page, and keep following us on Twitter at Take the North Pod. We'll catch you next time, and we'll see if the Bears can keep it rolling.
Great talk. See you out there.